For a closer look at the deals and agreements concluded in Sandton, we're joined by Letswalo. He's a researcher at the African Center for the Constructive Resolution of Disputes. Now, thank you very much for your time here on eNCA. Of course, what was big that came out of today's briefings by the different BRICS bloc leaders was the fact that we have a BRICS expansion. BRICS Plus has been recognized since China hosted the last time. They were saying that we need to recognize a BRICS Plus. Tell me what you're interested in terms of the countries that have been accepted to come onto the bloc from the 1st of January next year.
Thank you so much, and thank you. Greetings to the viewers. Well, my contention here is that the countries that were actually admitted into the BRICS are similarly, countries that are within the mandate of a contested multilateralism, meaning that majority of them are actually against the well-established international order, which is Western-oriented. So they are within the mandate of Western countries. As remember before, even South Africa's admission was also alluded to the fact that the former president, Jacob Zuma, was an anti-Western and looked eastward, hence why it actually gave them an advantage to become admitted into the BRICS. So I think that the 6 countries that were selected are also within that mandate. For instance, if you can look at Iran, since the issue of nuclear occurred, it had, some kind of hostility between the US and Iran. And also, if you can look at, again, the current foreign policy of Abu Dhabi, the United Emirates. So it also within the context that it does not necessarily, favor. It actually maintain a non-alignment position, and also it actually was irritated by the fact that the US tend to dictate or scrutinize its relationship with China and Russia. So that is what I can actually contend and submit. Thank you.
And of course, it's not surprising because, for instance, the UAE has always, voiced out that they'd like to form part of BRICS somehow. They've said that they'd like an invite, etc. And looking at de-dollarization and the position, the geopolitical positions of these particular countries, especially a country like the UAE and even Saudi Arabia, not surprising at all. So de-dollarization probably something that is closer to realization in terms of BRICS wanting it to happen?
Yes, I think, especially that the fact that they're actually contending to use their local currency currently and also look for alternative payment method, as one of the hiccups would be Russia's sanction from the SWIFT International. So I think, many of them hold the very same position to say that they were not there when dollar was actually made a chief reserve currency, because it was actually agreed in 1944. So I think majority of the countries were still under colony. So it is actually going to become realized in effect that most countries, especially in the African continent, has maintained that they were going to use their local currency as a medium of exchange, and also, but the only now room left is to seek alternative payment methods. And once that is actually done, especially with the advancement of the BRIC Plus countries in technology, I think that cooperation can actually be realized within, after next year maybe, or after that mission or the effectiveness of the admitted countries to join the BRICS.
And of course, economically, I mean, at the moment, the BRICS nation, take up 40%, first of all, of the world's population. But more importantly, the GDP contribution is at 31.5%, although South Africa only contributes 2% to that. But having the UAE, for instance, come into play, makes this a more geopolitical rival for the United States, even though the White House is at the moment downplaying it?
Yes. I think, it actually gives BRICS, a consolidated, or rather, it gives them a concrete and cemented position. Hence, it actually thrives to, is a contested multilateral organization, meaning that it actually wants to detach away from the Western-oriented establishment and institutions. So I think that with their position and also with the additional membership, it actually gives them a strong voice. It also gives them a strong cooperation against the well-established international order. And again, with the establishment of new BRICS development bank, it also provides an alternative. So it gives them, the necessary teeth to actually bite the Western-oriented or Western imperialist, as they would actually label it, that is actually mostly displayed in the international spectrum. So I think that in terms of economic collaboration between these countries, as the BRICS plus countries, it actually gives them a very proper wind, and the United States rather is actually more shaked because of it's actually losing its hegemonic influence in the international order since the admission of BRICS. It actually gives them a proper alternative for also emerging countries within the continent. For instance, we have Ethiopia. That is in the Horn of Africa. That is in the Horn of Africa, which is a conflict fragile region. So we know that in most instances, America has established its relationship with these countries in the Horn of Africa in the name under security. So now that we have BRICS countries, and two of them are sitting as as permanent members of the United Nations Security Council, which actually gives them an aggregate to have a veto power. These type of establishments actually provide a proper alternative, both in security, economics, and also politically in this particular aspect.